the first thing you need to be doing is paying off your debt and start building your credit. Your credit is based upon 5 major categories: payment history, the amount owed, length of credit history, types of credit used, and your new credit, such as opening new loans, new credit cards, stuff like that. Now, you have control over your payment history. You have some control over the amount owed because obviously you need to go to school and have a reliable car and all of that in most cases. But that doesn't mean you need to put yourself in a 50 grand of debt in order to get a Tesla when you're only making 150 grand a year. And that's not even considering the fact that you're getting taxed like crazy for making over 100 grand. Now, if you're in California, that's even worse. But you don't have control over the length of your credit history. If you have a credit card, all you can do is, be patient. Once you turn, 16, 17, make sure your parents are having you get a credit card, helping you to get a credit card. And if you're 18, then you need to sign up for a credit card yourself. You can do it through a high school checking account at first, which will be free. And then if you're in school, I believe there's still no fees on it. But after you're out of school and everything, you can still get a credit card and a debit card with minimal fees, especially if you're paying everything off and you qualify for a quality one. Now, so if you have a credit card, all you can do is be patient, and you have the most control over new credit, which is fairly self-explanatory, but in case you don't understand that sentiment, if you don't have to, purchase something like as an absolute necessity, then you shouldn't be purchasing it unless it's going to, basically, provide you some sort of stability in the long run. It has to be an asset that's going to either appreciate, it's going to give you free cash flow, it's going to be doing something for you. Now, if you have a family and you need a house, obviously that's a necessity, so that's, it's okay to rent or purchase a house for that purpose, but hopefully you're not overextending yourself and going and trying to buy at exactly what you think your means are, because in reality, in order to retire successfully and early, if you want, you need to be buying everything quite a bit below your means, unless you're making 200-300 grand, then you're in a different situation. But in California, at least, anything below 150, you're going to have to be saving a huge chunk of that. Now, the part that you don't have control over is the fact that just applying for a loan can get you a hard inquiry. So stuff like that is kind of out of your control. If you're applying for a city job such as firefighter, police officer, stuff like that, they're going to be doing an extensive background check on you, and that's going to put a hard inquiry on your credit, and there's pretty much nothing you can do about that. But you do have control over opening new loans, paying off your debt, and just overall trying to build your credit. And for example, for me, so you hit your FICO score, which is your credit score. It updates about every 2 weeks. I use Capital One, and if I don't pay off the complete, so I have $1,000 credit card. Now it went up to $2,000, I think. But if I don't pay off that $1,000 within that 2 weeks, once it updates, my credit score will drop, or it'll drop 40 points, or it'll go up 3 or 4 points if I'm already at that 740 range. So right now I'm just trying to keep it at the 740 and then just make sure it's always paid off after before the 2 weeks is up, to keep on pushing it 740. And then, hopefully I want to be able to get up beyond 760 in the next few years. I'm only 22, so I don't have a lot of credit history. So there's a few categories that are kind of knocking me, and that's the amount of time that I have had credit history and the amount of credit I have. So in order to build more credit, you want to have like a $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 account, but you don't want to be spending very much of it. You want to purchase stuff with a credit card, but you want to pay it off immediately. And just to stop myself from being impulsive or anything like that, I like to keep just one credit card and keep it completely paid off and have it be $1,000 or $2,000. So it's going to take me a little bit longer to build my credit, but just with my personality, that's how I like to do things. Now, you should be paying it off every 2 weeks, but if you can't, at least make sure that you're making the minimum payment, because if you don't make that minimum payment, you're gonna screw yourself, because that's one of the big things they look at. Now, number 2 is going to be obviously saving. Save, and save some more. It's okay to have one or two forms of liquid saving, such as stocks, stuff like that. But if you're doing stocks and everything, you want to make sure that you're controlling yourself and you're not just taking the money out every 2 seconds and doing things like that. Now, I also suggest having one or two forms of illiquid savings, and that's going to be things such as 401k, which you can get from your work. A 401k is essentially all of these things I'm going to mention: IRA, 401k. It's somebody purchasing stocks, and sometimes with the IRA, you're able to have a little bit more control over which category it's investing in, what kind of stocks and shares they're buying. But typically, if you're doing a 401k through your company, which is sponsored, they're going to have all of the say. But a lot of companies are starting to give you a little bit more flexibility with what you invest in, essentially. Now, which one you're going to want is going to depend. So I have a paragraph or two here that I'm going to go over, because I'm going to outline specifically which one you would want in which case. Now, I suggest having the two forms of savings, that is liquid, this is the stocks through Robinhood trading account. So if you're going to have a liquid form of saving, I suggest Robinhood, because Robinhood is super easy to put your money in there, invest in stocks with no fees, and if you have a good idea and you found a mentor or something like that in real estate or investing, and you trust them, and you want to start learning how to do fix and flips or using the BRRRR method, stuff like that, you're going to be able to take out your money and potentially use that to invest in something that's going to give you cash flow if you want to make that decision and take that risk. But you shouldn't be risking more than 10-15% of your savings. You shouldn't just be blowing 90 to 100%, especially if you're younger, because that's going to compound and be able to help you a lot more in the long run than it is if you mess up now. So you have to consider the opportunity cost there. But anyways, the benefit of having a liquid account is that if you're playing your cards right and investing in stable companies that have consistently seen growth, then you can grow with them. And when you have enough money to start your own business, you will be able to easily withdraw your money, but sometimes with heavy tax implications because of capital gains tax. So if you take out your money within the first year of making it, essentially, you're going to be taxed at 10 to 37%, depending on how much money you're making. But if you wait, you're not going to be taxed as much. So you really want to be confident in whatever industry you're trying to break into with that money. And then if you are taking out the money and getting capital gains tax on it, you really want to make sure you're putting it to good use. Now, using the BRRRR method, investing in real estate, buying, renovating, refinancing, and renting it out and repeating, that enables you to get equity that is tax-free. So you're able to use that to be able to go and purchase another property without the capital gains tax. Plus, you're getting cash flow from that property. So if you want to learn more about that, let me know. Now, if you're an employee, make sure you're contributing the max amount allowable based on your monthly budget to your company's 401k plan if they offer one. A 401k is a tax-advantaged retirement plan, meaning that your money can grow tax-free. By contributing to this, you can lower your tax burden up front, and you won't have to pay taxes on the money in your 401k until you withdraw it in the retirement. In addition, almost half of employers match some portion of their employees' contribution to a 401k, with median contribution match being 3%. So 401k, it's a sponsored, essentially, plan to purchase stocks from your employer. You can choose to put in 5%, 10%, 20% of your, how much you're making, and it maxes out at some certain point depending on that company. And you're going to want to do the max because it's going to be essentially tax-free later on, and most companies will match you a certain percentage, so you're getting free money. And since you're putting it in now and having it compound over a long period of time, you're going to end up with a good chunk of money. Now, if a Roth 401k is available to you, consider that option, because you can pay the income taxes up front and pay no taxes on the gains when you withdraw the money. This is helpful because you don't know what the tax rate will be later on when you withdraw the money. So what you have to consider is, if you don't pay the taxes up front, you can let that money compound more, but you don't know how much you're going to be taxed on it later. So that might be a negative, or it could be a positive. And then it could also be a negative or a positive if you pay the taxes up front. It might turn out that 20 years down the road, you're being taxed at 10% less. So the amount of money that would have compounded if you did vice versa. So it's a little bit complicated, but yeah, this is basically the gist of it. One negative to these accounts are you typically can't withdraw the money until you're 60 years old without having a 10% penalty fee. But in all honesty, I think it's a good thing, because it stops you from taking that money out, at the first sign of financial distress or impulsivity, right? Now, an example from Investopedia.com talks about how the tax advantages of a 401k plan combined with an employer match are a winning combination. If you invested $2,000 a year over 35 years, assuming a 7% per year growth rate, a 401k with a 3% employer match would earn about $66,000 more than a brokerage account. Now, if you're self-employed and looking into getting a Roth IRA, a Roth IRA is an individual retirement plan you can open directly with a bank or investment firm, and it typically allows you to pick your investments and have a little bit more flexibility in what you're putting your money into. This option is good for people making less than $137,000 a year, but if you're making more and can't have a Roth IRA and a solo 401k or traditional IRA a Roth IRA, solo 401k, or traditional IRA are good if you're making over $137,000. Now, even if you have access to a 401k through your employer, there's no reason why you can't contribute to both a 401k and a Roth IRA. Once you reach your 401k plan's maximum annual contribution of $19,000, you can then deposit any additional money you'd like to invest in a Roth IRA up to a max of $6,000 per year. Number 3. So, just to recap, build your credit, save up your money, and start paying off your bad debt. That way you will be able to get loans for good debt easier. And what I mean by good debt is, if you're interested in getting into wedge deals in real estate where you find properties with a lot of equity, or using the BRRRR method that I mentioned earlier to create and or increase that equity, or you want to start a business and have a way to get a competitive edge in the market, the local market that you're breaking into, then those would be considered potentially good debt choices. But for your first few endeavors into any of these fields, like I said earlier, I really suggest finding a mentor or talking extensively with somebody who's done that before, and find out, what you need to do exactly to be successful, and preemptively plan that out and execute. The biggest thing is always marketing for all of those things, though. Now, I suggest that, when you partner with that person, don't just go for the low-hanging fruit. Try to find somebody that's been rather successful in it and just try to offer them value, either through the company itself, or whatever you can do for them in order to get the value, which is their information that you need from them. Now, anyways, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you for watching. If you want me to do more of these videos, make sure to let me know down in the comments. If there's any other tips you have down in the comments that you want me to, make a video on to tell this audience about, or anything like that, let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.